Hello. I wanted to talk about this something that I've been building for the last probably a week now. Uh, I call it the Flow compiler, and I tweeted out a few pictures from time to time. So if you follow me on Twitter, you might have seen, my excitement, my excited tweets. Now I do have a dilemma as I build this Flow compiler and adding more and more bits to it to make it work better. It's became quite complicated, um, and I no longer know how to actually blog all the little steps. So I thought I'll just make this recording, and it's really just me, going through what's in my mind, how does it work, and so on. So hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you have a good idea about how I could share, like how to write this into a blog post or anything. So yeah, very interested to know how do you think I could share this with everyone. So without any more, um, let me just get started. So the idea I have is around this particular control. Let me just open this. It's massive, so sorry, it's very scary. Let me hide everything. Okay, so we now have a flow management connector that allows a flow to be able to see other flows that are in the current environment. When you get the flow, you can also update the flow. Okay, so you can write it back. And so I had this idea that let me show you my setup. I will have various flows like this one. See this template insert block, which is off, and template graph themes is off. And the idea is that in a template block, I will create these little blocks. See, these are scopes, and I give them a little nice name. And inside the scope, I will put my actions. So this is a compose action. They are awesome because compose can be used nested. If you use variables, variables have to be defined outside the scope. And then I could, make HTTP requests. This is a GET request to my website to artificially drive up my visitor count. Um, and then here's a different block. It's a request block with this one is HTTP to Microsoft. Now this request fails all the time because when you go to Microsoft's base address, there's a whole bunch of redirects that happens. Anyway, this one always fails. So not fail, it always redirects, which Flow then considers a failure. So I set this one up with this, even if you fail or skip, keep running on the second step anyway. Lots of redirect. So this particular flow, I call it template, has two scopes in it. We'll close that, and then I have another template here. This one basically connects. So there's a scope that connects to Microsoft Graph. So it uses client secrets and so on. It doesn't actually use these variables anymore. I put all the variables inside this scope block, and then it uses. So there's a few. There is calling the auth endpoint and then getting the JSON access token, and then use that to call the sites endpoint on the graph. Sites with this bearer token. So that's another little scope. Now the template can have other stuff, but basically what I'm thinking is I put stuff inside scopes, and then I use scope as a container to move a whole bunch of flows. Let me show you what I do next. So here I have a flow, and it has all this stuff in it. Let me delete everything. Let me just delete everything. Put the stuff on the bottom. So let's say this is a flow that I've started working on, and I wanted to insert or copy those other blocks into here. So I may set it up. In fact, I might move it around. Let me do the graph one last. Yeah, let me just shift the order around a little bit. Okay, so I want these to be filled with the flow actions I've defined elsewhere. So you see I've been testing and it's been failing, but now it works. It works now. So so that these are my templates. This is the flow I actually want to build. So currently it's empty. This is called the new draft flow, and then this one is my main running flow. And I'll come back to this. So all my flows are triggered from HTTP request. Copy this. Come over here. Is that one, I believe? Yes. So we're gonna trigger this. And it's triggered. It's running. So you see, it's listed all my flows. I have about 70 flows. I have a whole lot of flows. And then there are basically two parallel blocks here. On the left, I am filtering all my flows, but I'm only after the flows where the name has the word template in it. So you see, this whole array of flows is filtered down to just two. I have these two template flows, and then for each one of them, I get the flow, get the JSON within it, do my XML trick for each, and then append, and then basically append all the blocks. So you can see this is a JSON definition of each of the steps. I append the blocks into one big variable called template block. So within template block, think of it as a dictionary. You have these names: insert block, request block. There's one more, I forgot what it is. So there are two flows there are two template flows, and there are two blocks in one flow, and then there's another block in the second flow. So there's three blocks altogether in my template blocks. Okay, a dictionary of three flow JSONs. That's the left hand side. The right hand side actually fetch the flow I actually want to change, which is this one called the new draft flow. So this is the working flow that I'm working on. I actually pick that up on the flow and get this JSON out. And then in this combined loop here, I am basically, this one is silly. I am basically again looping using my for each trick. I'm looping through each block. So for each template block, I have three of them. I'm looking through this template that the draft template I'm picking up, and then I'm basically stitching JSON from the blocks into the draft template, and then save the new template back over itself. Okay, so this does this crazy a whole lot of variables and compose. See, we have this debate about whether variables are better or compose is better. Variables have to be defined at the top, so you get this big massive blob. But with variables, you could control the type a lot better. Whereas with compose, you can't really control the type very well. So you can see that's a JSON. But sometimes it gets confused and it treats the whole thing as a string. So but the nice thing about compose is that you can create them ad hoc any way you like. So compose are kind of like a constant variable, not constant variable, an immutable constant that you can use anywhere, and the scope to the current block. Anyway, so using compose with temporary stuff and then set them back in the variables. But at the very end, we basically updated our flow. So we have our new Flow JSON with a whole bunch of stitching done, and then put it back. There's one more bit I want to show. I'll come back in a sec. And what's a good thing to show? So that's the template, and that's the draft. Let me just close this. So you'll see if I come back here, see the draft flow was updated, right? While I'm talking, I run that flow. And if I going back in and now, see how the blocks have been populated with the flows from my template. So essentially, what I have here, let me show you, including this little config after. So essentially, what I have here is a way that you could do copy and paste, right? You can create blocks of these flows and then copy them into an existing flow. And a lot of times we are, say, if you're using HTTP requests and you need to, always do the handshake, get your token, and then from that point onwards you have an active token that you can use. This particular step, say connecting the graph or connecting the SharePoint, is something repeatedly that you just use a lot, all the time. So this is a really easy way to just embed that into an existing flow. So just create a new block, point the flow at it, and then update. Now the great part is you could do silly things now. You could do, say, if I come here and say, hey, HTTP flow John, what can I do with this? Let me change this. I might just change something silly. John is. I'm excited. I'm actually really happy. Ooh, excited. So you can change your definition, and then you can go back and just rerun this. And because the way this, I call this a flow compiler, it's compiling all these snippets of flow back into this template. Let that finish. It takes a couple of seconds. Yeah, so it's already picked out all the flows and the original. It's actually going through the replacement, and then it'll take a few seconds doing the update. And yep, it's done. Where is it? So that's a template. That's a draft. Don't save this. If I go back in here, you see here, John's excited. So you can modify your template and then rerun your flow and have it written over all these blocks. What else can I show? I can show, let's say, you can move them around. You can put some stuff in the middle. So anything you put in the middle outside of a block, they don't get changed. Those. Hey. Run that again. Quite a fun exercise. So while it's thinking, let me pull up some JSON. Lots and lots of JSON. So just a quick example. Generally in your flows JSON, there is this part that says run after. So saying this block runs after this other block. Let me find something that actually has something. Oh, this one's crazy. Yeah, so see the run after something like another action, probably one on top. When we do the JSON stitching, we will take everything inside So this is one action, right? We'll take this entire JSON, but you have to exclude the run after, because the run after controls how your scopes actually connect to each other. So you have to keep the run after while replacing everything else inside. So it's not a direct JSON copy and paste over, because if you do that, you will scramble all the order of these scopes. In fact, half the time you end up with scopes that don't work. So so that's just a note here. So that's one of the steps I do in here, where I do a stitch with when I do a stitch and keep the run after. Let me see. Let me go to some of the later one. Run after. Here we go. Run after. Yeah, so let me know what you guys think. This is I think it's pretty cool. Been running it for quite a bit on this test flow only. So couple of things. Currently, this compiler only replaces scopes at the very top level. So in my draft, if I were to say, you know, create like a loop, create say even if I create a parallel, and then put scopes in here, you won't be able to read inside a nested structure. So you won't be able to see these scopes because they're not in the parallel block. So there's definitely work to do there. When I'm looping through this draft flow, I have to actually do a nest, like in a nested way, going into each kind of nested scope. Either it's a for each, or parallel, or inside a nested scope block, or a condition block. So lots of things to do, lots of fun ideas still to do. But I think even at a top level, you could do the insert, and then after the insert, just reopen it in the editor and then move it around using the editor. So you can definitely do that. Once it's not on the root scope, though, you won't be able to get updated because the Flow compiler only scans the very top level. And I'll just probably end there. Follow me on Twitter and reach out. Tell me whether this is helpful, or yeah. Bye.